appreciate very much the presence of each one here tonight. We'd like to welcome you to this Assembly of the Lord's house. I'm very happy to be able to be here, and I appreciate another opportunity to be your speaker. For our study tonight, I'd like to notice an idea that I got to thinking about one time. I happened to be listening to the radio, and a man came on there, and he was talking about all these things that's happening in the world. And he said, you know, somebody opened up Pandoras box. And I got to thinking about that. I use that term pretty often. I talk about Pandoras box. We generally consider that to be something that's taken out of a Greek myth. I'll tell you about it in a minute or two. But the idea is that you open it up for the devil. You open Pandora's box. And this is, as you said, it's a myth that the Greeks cooked up. But you know, it has some very important ideas in it for us. I'm afraid that there are many people nowadays in many places where the Lord's church has opened up Pandora's box. And I'd like to talk about that just for a little while because the consequences can be everlastingly disastrous. Before we get into this any further, though, we want to use our privilege of prayer. We'll ask you, if you will, to calm yourself in some fashion, or the brother selected, words of prayer. I said just a few minutes ago, I use this expression pretty often when I want to talk about the idea of the devil getting loose. And I use, as I said, the idea of Pandora's box has been opened. Well, you know, I got to think about that because I don't like to stand up here and talk about things that I really don't know anything about. And I really didn't know anything about that except the way it was used in common usage. So I did a little research. And I discovered some things that I'm very happy to know. Matter of fact, I discovered something that will be a surprise to you as you know this story. This is a Greek myth. That just means a story. That's all it is. And it's about the Greek gods. You remember the Apostle Paul met up with the Greeks on his famous sermon. And he told these Greeks how foolish they were and how superstitious they were and how they had many gods. They had so many gods, they had a God, the unknown God, in case they missed one. And then he said, I'm going to tell you who the true God is. Well, that's the same kind of people made up all these myths. This myth came out of Greek history in about 700 BC. The original poem from which it came is called Works and Days, and it was written by a fellow by the name of Hisle. Now, he wrote this, and he did what a lot of other people do, and this I think is interesting. Basically, what this guy did is plagiarize the Bible. He just used Bible stories and turned them into other kind of stories. You know, the Mormons did the same thing. The Book of Mormon, they just took and wrote the New Testament again and set it in America with the Indians and so on. That's kind of the way the Jews, or the Greeks did. They wrote this particular myth, and they used examples from God's Word. You'll see what we're talking about pretty easy. The story we're going to be talking about has to do with Zeus. Now, Zeus is the counterpart of God Almighty. But there's nothing almighty about Zeus, I want to tell you. He was the chief of the Greek gods. Zeus, one time, decided that he wanted to create a woman. Remember that story? I told you this just like it reads in the Bible. He's going to create a woman. So Zeus created a very beautiful woman. And he placed her on earth, and he so loved this woman, he thought she was such a wonderful thing to create, that he decided to give her a gift. So he gave her a beautiful, ornate box. And this was a box bedazzled with jewels and so on. And he gave it to this Pandora, and he told her this: don't ever open this box. Don't ever open it. Now that's my first clue that Zeus wasn't like God. Anybody that had any good sense would give a woman a gift and tell her not to open it. But that's what he did. He gave her this beautiful gift and he said, don't ever open it. Well, you know, things went along. But I can imagine poor little Pandora. She's got this beautiful gift now, and you know, she's just like all of us would be. She wants to know what's in there. Now, everybody agrees that this story, and what we're going to tell about Pandora right now, was not something that was intentional wrong. It was just more or less out of curiosity. One day, Pandora made up her mind, as we said, no maliciousness intended. She wanted to look in this box. So, you think about this. And you know what flew out of that box? sins of those in the world today. They flew out of that box all kinds of hatred and envy and jealousy and crimes. Everything that you can imagine is contrary to what we would consider to be God's Word. They flew out of that box. Now you remember this is just a story. And as a result of this, though, we talk about when evil overtakes people, that they open Pandoras box. Now the lesson there for us is that we do not want to allow sin to get the upper hand on us. We don't want to give it a chance. We do not want to lift the lid off the box. You know, sin is a progressive thing. It is a rare thing that I see somebody wakes up some morning and just puts his feet on the floor and says, I'm going to become the worst sinner in the world. It's not the way it happens. Usually this is a gradual thing, and I believe the Bible bears that out. In Psalms, the first Psalm, verse 1, the psalmist said, Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Now notice how this progresses. First of all, he says, Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. Don't walk in the counsel of the ungodly. In other words, don't listen to it. Don't listen to people who might want to lead you astray. Stay away from it. That's the first step. If you'll stay away from it and don't listen to its enticements, you won't have any trouble. But you know what happens? I find that this is something we have to be reminded. Do not open the box. You just keep going. Don't allow yourself to be entertained by these things that are contrary to what God would have you to be doing. I find this is where we get the idea as Pandora's box. But you know, this has even been brought into other types of ideas. For instance, the legal profession, they've got a term for Pandora's box. You know what they call it? Do not allow yourself to get on a slippery slope. A slippery slope. You know, a slope goes down. A slippery slope allows you to slide down. So stay off of a slippery slope. Don't stop and get on that in that situation. The Easterners, the people who live in the eastern part of the world, they've got a name for it too. You know what they say? Do not allow the camel to get his nose under the tent. Because the next thing, the camel's going to be in the tent with you. Now you see, don't open Pandora's box. Don't get on a slippery slope. Don't let the camel get his nose in the tent, because it is progressive. What happens next? Well, he says the person, he begins to stand in the way of the sinner. What has he done? He's walking along, but now he stopped. That's bad. He stopped. He's listening now, and you know what happens next? He sits in the seat of the scornful. Friends, that's the way it works. You get to listen to the wrong things. You stop to hear them. You're standing there paying attention. And the first thing you know, you're sitting there sitting scornful. That's the way sin progresses. And I believe I can point out some of the things that we can find ourselves in, because I'm worried about us. I'm worried about you. I'm worried about me. I'm worried about the Lord's church, because there are some people who've forgotten some of these things, and we need to be reminded from time to time. Do you know that you and I are still dealing with sin in this old world? That our lives have to become something that we repulse and try to get away from the sin that comes our way on a daily basis? Let me ask y'all personally, do you remember these words? Godliness, morality, modesty, reverence, fear, and respect for God, holiness. I hope you remember those words, because a lot of people have forgotten them. As a result, they've slipped off from what God has commanded them to be. This is a commandment in 2 Corinthians 6, verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. What does he say? Come out from among them, touch not, and then you will be my sons and daughters, and I will be your father. Don't forget about that. We have to come out from the things that this world offers us, and we have to touch not. And I think that I'd like to make this clear. As I said a second ago, I found out this is something a lot of people have forgotten about. I don't have one particular congregation in mind. I don't have one particular person in mind. It seems to be in general. Let me start like this. I'm going to give you a few examples where I think we've opened up the box. Did you ever think that you would allow someone to come into your house, sit right across the room from you, and use God's name in vain, curse and swear, mock and ridicule and joke about God, advocate the homosexual lifestyle, adultery, fornication, glorify violence and perversion and all manner of wickedness, get indecent and immodest and naked right there before you in your living room? Did you ever think you'd allow that? Well, we have. And we've been warned. I will never forget one year at the Sulphur 4th of July meeting over at Sulphur, Brother Edwin Morris. Most of y'all knew Brother Edwin Morris. He was one of our older preachers, tall, thin, hawk-faced fella, and he had a way about him. He had a motion like this, and you know, he had an index finger about 15 inches long, and he'd stand up there and he'd say, I'm going to tell you right now, that TV set sitting in your living room is a devil's eye. And that antenna sticking out the roof is the devil's horns. You know, we did. We all laughed. There we are. You know, he needs to get up to speed. He used to condemn the television and tell us how bad it's going to be. And you know what? Back in that day and time, it was pretty bland, really. From some of the very first shows on television. Some of you young people won't know these things I'm about to tell you. There's one that was called Ozzie and Harriet. Ozzie and Harriet began their TV career on October 3rd, 1952. They had two sons, David and Ricky. Now here's the catch of this. Ozzie and Harriet were husband and wife. They really were married. And their sons really were their sons. And you know, I find that they were very careful about the program that they put on. As a matter of fact, there was no immoral or bad language. Ozzie and Harriet, when they went into their bedroom, they had individual beds. Ozzie had his and Harriet had hers. They didn't get in bed together. They were careful about that back in 1952. Long about the same time, a program that come on, you can still see it nowadays in reruns, and this was called I Love Lucy. And you know, I Love Lucy, and on this particular show, they didn't allow any immorality and any bad language. As a matter of fact, when Lucy became, as we might say, with child, really, you know, they wouldn't let them say the word pregnant on television. No, don't do that. That's not a word that you say on television. Isn't that amazing? Where are we now? Take a look around. There is very little prohibited on television, and I'm going to assure you, it's going to get worse. We people, we find cussing and fornication and adultery and nakedness, and now homosexuals being literally crammed in our face. That's on your television set. It is something, again, which I think that we need to be concerned about. Now, I heard this story a long time ago. My girls tell me I need to update my stories, but I like it like it is. Said an old preacher stood there, was arguing with a fellow about the television, and the man was trying to defend the television. He said, don't you know there's a lot of good stuff on TV? And the old preacher said, well, it may be, but who wants to stick his head in a bucket of slop hoping he'll catch a biscuit? My girls think, you don't know what a bucket of slop is. If you don't know what a bucket of slop is, Google it up. And he was right. There may be some good things on television, but who wants to take the risk of trying to catch one? This is something nowadays that we find is completely gone the other way. I am convinced that there's nothing that our society has experienced that has had a more corrupting influence on our society than television. Television has taught us things that we don't need to know. It has taught us and showed us things that we didn't need to see. It has led us down paths that we should not have taken. It has stolen the innocence of our children, which shouldn't happen under any situations. We just tried it out. We decided it's all right. And now we're sitting in the seat of this scornful. That's the way that it works. And I find that that's the way that it's worked for us. You know, there's a saying, I heard this again the other day, if we allow one generation to tolerate something, the next generation will celebrate it. And that's the way it is. It is allowed to get by, and there it goes. While I'm right here, I'll mention something else. This is going to be a shock to some of y'all. You know, back in not too many years ago, the preachers used to condemn movies. Yeah, we used to condemn Hollywood. I used to call Hollywood the armpit of the world. Has that changed? That's still the armpit of the world. It's not changed. I find that people nowadays, though, they idolize and glorify and glamorize movie stars. They want to be just like them. They want their children to be just like them. It seems the more perverse and more immoral, the more degenerate a movie star becomes, the more he's applauded by our society. The worse he is, the better we like him. And you know, I find in Hollywood, the lifestyle is something that a lot of people think is glamorous. Oh, would you love to be a movie star? It's glamorous. It's a beautiful life. You're rich. You're happy. Now, right here, I can really get carried away with this. I've been preaching this year full-time 52 years. And you know, I've been needing an example, like the example I'm about to give you, ever so often. I have never had a shortage of examples. My example tonight is Whitney Houston. Y'all remember her, don't you? When I first saw Whitney Houston, she was a young black lady, girl, beautiful, beautiful young black girl, and she was singing in church. And she had a voice unlike any other. And you know, she rose to the top of her career rapidly. Everybody admired and adored her. Well, you remember the story. One night Whitney Houston was so drunk and so high that she couldn't even hold her head out of her own bath water, and she drowned. Now, wasn't she having a good time? Wasn't she in a beautiful life? She was in such a beautiful life, she was trying to escape. She was trying to get away. She had the world by the tail. She had everything glamorous she could ask for. And yet, she died. She died from drugs and overdose and the wear and tear on her body. Well, I'd like to be just like her with you. Is that really what you think? Well, I'm sorry to say that's what a lot of people think. Here's what Hollywood is. It's adultery and fornication and homosexuality. It's nakedness and drugs and divorce. It's children out of wedlock. It's suicide. That's what it is. You notice these movie stars has got it all out of whack. The first thing they do is have a couple of kids, and then they decide to get married, maybe. That's one way. Now, people don't just let this slide over you. Think about that just a little bit. That's what's happened around us. And you know, I promised myself one thing. I've been in people's homes and they'd say, you know, we like to watch a movie. We've got a really good movie, really good clean movie, and we'll watch it maybe after the services some night. Well, I used to go for that. We all go in, sit down, you know, around the TV. And the TV, they put the movie on. And the movie wouldn't run 10 minutes until there'd be something happen, usually some string of language, and they'd sailor blush, and they'd say, oh, I never did notice that before. I never noticed that. I don't remember that being in there. You know what happened? It's happened to all of us. They've been desensitized. The things that used to shock them right down to their core is common stuff nowadays. And we just allow that to go on into something which is, as I said, I'm not going to watch a movie with you because I don't want either one of us to go through something like that again. While I'm here, I'm going to mention one other thing. And this electronic idea, computers. I talked a little bit about computers 2 nights ago, I believe it was. A computer is a wonderful machine. You know, it's capable of all sorts of wondrous things. We can get information, we can spread communication, we can get all kinds of information out of the computer. Let me tell you something about a computer. They don't call a computer the World Wide Web for nothing. You can get everything in this world, some things you never heard of or thought about, on the computer. As a result of that, we've opened the box and we've allowed this instrument to become something which introduces all sorts of immorality in our own lives. You know, this is something, and you may not know this, you wind up sitting in the seat of the scornful if you absorb all that stuff that comes over your computer. The last 5 years, I've known of 2 Christian homes broken up by pornography, where the man preferred pornography to his wife and family. There's another family that's on the verge of giving it up because of pornography. Now, this is something you don't want to start. This is something that completely alienates you to your responsibilities in marriage And this is no joke whatsoever. It is a perversion that we allow to come into our homes and into our minds. And you're going to wind up sitting down here in the seat of the scornful. Let's do something else. I want to talk a minute about modesty. You know, modesty has gone out the window. It is something that I see Christian women. I don't go hunting this sort of situation because I'd rather not know. But I see Christian women and men in public places immodest. This is something that I think we've forgotten about, and as a result of that, it's coming into our lives. I went into the Walmart in Ada one January, about this time of the year. I had to run in there about 10 o'clock for something we desperately needed, and I'm looking around, and I look over to checkout aisle, and one of our brethren, his wife, is checking out. And she's standing there in a pair of shorts. Now, I'm not talking about walking shorts down her knees. They tell me these are called sport shorts with a little cut up the side. And she's standing in these little bitty shorts and a little top on. Not another person in that whole store is dressed like that. It's cold outside. This is January. She's there dressed like that. The next day or two, whenever I saw her husband, I said, is that all right for you for your wife to dress like that? I said, she was in a little skimpy pair of shorts down there at Walmart in the middle of the night. He said, I didn't notice. He didn't notice. Well, that's what's happened. You ever see a Christian man, I didn't think I ever would, jogging down a public street with a pair of little shorts on, tennis shoes, and that's all? Well, I've seen it. Now, what's wrong with somebody like that? What are they thinking about? This is something, again, that I'm afraid we've forgotten who we are. It is something that we need to be concerned about. Is nobody ashamed anymore? Does anyone blush at this type of behavior and wearing this type of lack of clothes? What do they think? I'm about to tell you. They think they can do anything they want to and go to heaven. You can't do anything you want to and go to heaven. The very thing that distinguishes Christians makes us eligible for heaven. And we have to be concerned about that. Jeremiah the 6th chapter verse 15. Were they ashamed when they committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. We've opened the door on immodesty. Now, I'm not going to go into a great discussion of all this because I've changed my definition of modesty. I have another idea about it. I had this sad opportunity when I first began to preach. I was probably about 20 years old, and I was out in California. And the brethren out there were upset because their women were wearing pants. We were having a big discussion. I wasn't. I was just an onlooker. And they were kicking it back and forth and back and forth. And finally they decided it'd be all right for Christian women to wear pants as long as they had a long tunic, they called it, down over it. That'd make it all right. You know what that was? That's letting the camel get his nose under the tent. You know how long the tunic idea lasted? Hardly long enough to get out of there. Now today, we're way past the pants argument. We're way past that. That was just sort of a start. Now then we're concerned about Christian women, bathing suits and short shorts, all kinds of revealing dresses. We're talking about men who are not concerned about the way they dress or the way that they look. People ask me, do you still preach on modesty? You know, I have a reputation. Yes, I do. I still preach on modesty. I've been preaching on modesty for all this time. And you know what? I believe the church is more immodest tonight than it ever has been. What's wrong? Well, I think we've been attacking the outward appearances rather than the source of the problem. I've decided this. Modesty is an attitude. It's an attitude. And I believe the Bible bears that out. In 1 Timothy 2, verse 9, in like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefaced and sobriety, not with broidered hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly array, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works. What is modest apparel? It is that apparel which becomes a woman professing godliness. She's a godly, reverent woman. Now you can take it from there. If you're one of these kind of women, or men, either one of the men are just as bad in this. If you're one of those guys that's going to come around after services with your little notepad and a pencil and tap another pad and say, just write down what you think would be all right for me to wear. I already had that happen. I'm not going to do that. It's not up to me. This is your responsibility. And if you're the godly, reverent woman that you're supposed to be, or a man that you're supposed to be, this is no problem. You know, Jesus said, cleanse the inside of the cup and the platter, and the outside will be clean. You get this straight up here, all the rest of this falls into place. So we have to recognize the responsibility to be modest. I had a lady tell me, after I preached this lesson, she said, well, you know, when I raised my kids, I was pretty strict. I really was. I was pretty strict. She said, you know, my mama, she was real strict. She was much stricter than I was, but I was pretty strict. And you know, my daughter, she's kind of strict, but my grandgirls are scaring me to death. Mama was real strict. Next mama was not so strict. Next mama was hardly strict at all. And the next one is running wild. Now where does that all go back to? They fail to teach their children that they need to have responsibility to demonstrate themselves to be modest. It is something, again, which I think that all of us need to be concerned about. We don't want to open the door to all this immodest things. Again, here's our third one. Adultery, fornication. The door is open here, I'm sorry to tell you. All these bad influences come upon us, for instance, and I'm not going to get gross with this, I don't think it's necessary. Fornication is generally defined as illicit sexual relationship between people who are not married. I suspect that all the adults and most of the children in this audience know people who live together as husband and wife who are not married. That's wrong in the sight of God. That is a sin in the sight of God. And I find that this is something, again, which is out of control. It is out of control in the world, and the sad part of this, I expect it in the world, there's this sin's named too often in the Lord's church. And I try to tell people, especially young people, when you begin first to look for you a wife, or you look for you a husband, these boys and girls that you date, you treat them like a lady. Or ladies, you treat them like a man, a young man, a brother in Christ or a sister in Christ. I understand girls have become more aggressive now. I think that's a pity. It is something which, again, it demands that we be concerned about it. The sin of fornication produces havoc in people's lives. It brings about unwanted children. It produces untold thousands of abortions for people who do not want the child. It brings about horrible diseases, mental and social problems. One afternoon I was watching a program on television. They were interviewing 4 little girls. These little girls had several things in common. They were all 13 years old. They were all had a baby. And none of them was married. They were talking to them. They were all pitiful. You know, a 13-year-old child ought to be out enjoying being 13. Now, this also involved 4 young men, I suspect. Just as guilty as these girls. But the girls are suffering the brunt of this. Their youth is going to be cut off. As a matter of fact, they asked them if they could agree upon something that all of this had hurt them. They all agreed that this sin had stolen their life. It had stolen their life. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abuse themselves of mankind. As I said, it bothers me this sin is in the world, but it bothers me worse this sin is in the church. We got too many hurt marriages and too soon babies, and that just shouldn't be named among God's people. The second, hand in hand with this, is the sin of adultery. Adultery is illicit sexual relationships, generally we consider, between married people. Married people, Hebrews 13 verse 4, marriage is honorable law, and the bed are defiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. Again, I find that you and I need to recognize that the greatest betrayal that you can do to your marriage and your marriage vows is commit adultery. That's the worst thing that you can do, to break up your home. And here's what I don't think people think about. As far as I'm concerned, that's one of the most self-centered, selfish sin a person can do, is commit adultery. And what they're not even thinking about is, it's just me. I never got to do this when I was young. I never had these opportunities. Now I'm going to blow it out and do all these things. I hear that. What have they forgotten about? They've forgotten about the children. What about the children? Mom and Daddy's. Well, let me tell you a little story right here. One day in school, teacher come down the hall dragging a little 6-year-old boy. He's just clamoring and fighting. And she pushed him into the principal's office and told the principal, "You take him. I can't do anything with him. Said he's out of control. He's disrupting my whole class." And she slammed the door and left. Little boy walked in and the principal said, "Son, sit down there just for a minute, would you?" So the principal went on working and giving the little boy time to get his head together. And finally the principal said to the little boy, "Son, are you mad?" He said, "Yes, I am." He said, "What are you mad about?" He said, "Because I got to go to court Monday. And I got to tell the judge if I want to live with my daddy or my mom." The principal said, "That makes me mad too. That makes me mad too. That two adults have got no more concern about anybody but themselves that will get them into that type of a situation. And yet, it's not at all uncommon." I was talking to a brother about this situation a while back, and he said, what we forgot about is what marriage is about. Matthew the 19th chapter verse 5, "And said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder." All of this business of adultery, all of this divorcing and remarriage and such as that, that's not what God wanted out of marriage. This same brother, he was trying to defend what he was in. Here's what he said. He said, "Don't you know this?" He said, "Don't you know marriage? A man and a woman, when the binding power is broken, they're both loose." And you know what they call this? They call this the handcuff theory. Now, I hope you don't look at your marriage as a handcuff situation, but there's a lot of people do. But for the Christian, now I'm talking to the Christian now, we're not talking about alien sinners. For the Christian, this is not true. It's not a handcuff theory. There's more to it than this. There's another entity involved in this. Look at here. Let's call that with a man, and here's the woman. Who's that woman? It's God. He's in on this marriage. And what does he tell us? Well, he tells us this. Matthew 19, verse 9. "I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whosoever marrieth her which is put away, doth commit adultery." Jesus teaches that there's one reason that a Christian can put away his wife or put away her husband and marry again. And that is for fornication or adultery. That's the only reason. So let's say this person, we'll just do what as the Lord put it. Let's say this woman right here, and she is the guilty party. She's the one that's broken her marriage vows. What about her? She can never, ever marry again. She's given up her right to ever marry again. And whosoever marrieth her commits adultery. That woman's done with marriage. What about the person over here, the innocent party? Well, this divorce happened because of adultery. he's free to marry. Or vice versa, how that is. He's free to marry. Now I want to make this emphasis. The reason for the divorce must be adultery. And you can't wait 15 years after it happens and decide you're going to get a divorce for adultery. If you wait that long, it's too long. You've already forgiven them, you don't want the marriage. Now people, this is something we've forgotten about, and amazing, people get themselves in this situation, and you know, we just go along, time passes, we forget what happened, we don't know exactly what caused it, and everything's lovely. Everything's not lovely. If they're guilty as this sin over here, they cannot marry again. Again, that's Pandora's box has been opened, and we find out it's gotten out of hand. I've just got one more here, and I won't take time to read it. This one also is a concern as far as I'm concerned. Attendance at the Lord's church. Now, the crowd's a little slim tonight. I understand why there's several people sick who would have been here. I totally understand that. So I'm not talking about the crowd here tonight. I think we have a good crowd considering all the things that are the way of illness that's going on. But I find this is not necessarily the way it is. I was raised in Ada, Oklahoma. Y'all been to Ada. And you know, in Ada, just in general, on Wednesday nights, all the time I was growing up, the schools never scheduled anything. You know why? Because we went to church. Everybody went to church on Wednesday night. They wouldn't even think about doing anything on Sunday because all the denominations, everybody went to church. That's not the case anymore. Now I find that they have no respect for Wednesday night, which is not a big deal as far as they're concerned, but they'll do anything on Sunday. And here's the point. They want the kids involved. Now you parents, let me tell you something. If you allow it to happen, the schools will dominate every waking hour that your kid has. And you have to step up somewhere when it begins to violate your responsibilities to God and say, no, we're not going to do that. That's not something which we're concerned about. I find again, gospel meetings are neglected. You know, this bothers me because I'm involved in gospel meetings all the time. A few years ago, I held a meeting in a place, and a man, now I don't know what a man's thinking about. He got up to wait on the table the first Sunday I was there. It was a 10-day meeting. And he stood up there and he said, I believe Brother Hisle's my favorite preacher. I just think he's my favorite preacher. And we're so happy to have him here. And I'm glad he's going to be with us. And before he got finished, he said, me and my family are going to Disney World in the morning. You know, that's amazing. But there are people who schedule vacations to clear out when the meeting comes around. You know, we used to go to places and people would take their vacation and come to the meeting. Used to hold a place way out in the woods in Missouri. I'm talking 30 miles in the direction to a town. And these people used to pull their little camp trailers down there and plug in the church and stay all week for the gospel meeting. That's over. Nobody thinks about that anymore. I find out that this is something, again, for the most part, the denominational world has give up. I was flying home from Jacksonville, Florida a couple of years ago, and I was sitting right next to a very distinguished-looking man, had on a real nice suit, and he was sitting there, and we were visiting. Finally, curiosity got the best of him. He said, what are you doing in Florida? I said, well, I was there to hold a gospel meeting. I just stunned him. He said, you were what? I said, I was holding a gospel meeting. He said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, I preached for the biggest Baptist church in Houston, Texas. The biggest one. And said, we don't even try to have a meeting anymore because nobody comes. Now that's a telltale sign. You know, we're going to be not far behind that if we're not careful. Because it's something people do not, it's not a priority. And most of them are too busy to be involved in something like that. Now, this meeting here, I would ask you if you remember this congregation, is this your meeting or is this their meeting? There again, you get into the attitude of what's important. It is something, again, that the Bible teaches us, the need to be together. Now, I'll admit, I don't have any scripture to tell you to go to church on Wednesday night. I don't have any. But where would you rather be? You know, tonight, like we said the other day, the Lord's with us. We're gathered here by the authority of Jesus Christ, and He's here. Where else can you get that? We've had the opportunity to praise God in song. We did a good job as far as I'm concerned. Where else can you do that? We're now reading and studying the Lord's will. We've talked to God in prayer. You got a better place than all that? No, you don't. This is where you need to be. And I'm really glad that you're here. It is something which is good for you. It creates a good habit. Brother of mine, he's a little younger than I am, but our mothers died about the same time. And we were talking about our mothers. And he started it with this. He said, I'll tell you how it was at my house. If it was in the fall and we had a gospel meeting going on and a football game going on the same week, we knew where we'd be. We'd be at the meeting. Said in the summertime, if we were having a meeting and there's a little league baseball game going on, we knew where we'd be. We'd be at the gospel meeting. And went on. I didn't know where this is going. Sometimes this goes negative. But finally he got through with it all and he said, I'm glad Mama taught me to go to church. Do you know what I've discovered? Most of these extracurricular activities that we got our children involved in, it's not for the children. And we like to think it is. You know who's involved the most? The parents. And even 15 minutes after that child graduates from high school, it won't be worth a flip to him. It's all over. But right now, it just runs us crazy. You hear about soccer moms and all that. They're so wrapped up in it, that's all they get done. I held a meeting again at a place 2 summers ago. And we had dinner on Sunday evening. And after the dinner, here comes a man that I've known all his life, and his wife, and their little teenage daughter. And he come around, and the woman said, we just want to hug your neck. Said, we won't be here this evening. We got something else we've got to do. Okay. Bye. See you next time. I didn't ask them what they were going to do. You know why? Because I don't want to know. But somebody always tells me. That's the way it is. The door hardly got slammed. The person walked over and said, you know where they're going? No. They're taking their daughter to cheerleading tryout. And you know by that act what they just taught their daughter? Bring up a child away and have him go, remember? They just taught her it's all right to miss out on a gospel meeting. They just told her it's all right to wear immodest apparel. They just taught her it's all right to jump around before the whole world immodest. They just taught her that an event in school is more important than a meeting at church. Now, you parents have lots of little kids here. And I love them all. I love little kids anyway. Are you teaching your children to go to church? I hope you are. I hope you don't say one of these days, I don't know why they're not here. It gets, as we learn to skip Wednesday, it gets easier to skip on the Lord's Day. Acts 20, verse 7, on the first day of the week when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech until midnight. Now, that used to be an understanding. On the first day of the week, we come together to break bread. Hebrews 10, verse 25, he says, not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together, as a matter of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. We have a divine appointment on the Lord's Day. That appointment is to be in the assembly of the Lord's church, together around the Lord's table. You say that's just to keep us from having any fun on Sunday? No. God has done this for us for the best purpose in the world. He knew we were forgetful. He knew we might miss out on something if we didn't have something to remind us. So He gives us this opportunity to remember what Jesus has done for us. And this is a meeting we're not supposed to skip. I hear some of the lamest excuses nowadays as to why people aren't in the assembly on the Lord's Day. 2 boys where I was at one time, they missed on the Lord's Day, and I went around to ask them. I said, where were y'all this morning? Oh, we slept in. And that's all. What am I going to say? Well, y'all probably didn't sleep in. What do I say about it? No, I don't say anything because they know better than that. I had one thing, and I like this story. This man was missing Sunday morning. Old man, should have known better. And when he got there, he said, I said, well, where were you this morning? He said, well, my brother was having his 89th birthday. And we just thought we ought to go. But he said, you know, a funny thing happened. Said, I walked into my brother's birthday party, and he said, "What are you doing here? I thought you went to church." Now, I'd like to hug his brother's neck because he had more religion in it, about him than this brother in Christ did. And let me tell you this. If you're going to take a vacation and go off somewhere and forsake the assembly, don't make a mockery out of it. Don't take you a little loaf and a cup and some grape juice and put off the side of the road or in a hotel room and do whatever you plan to do. Because you know what you did then? You have made a sin now, a premeditated sin. You planned on it. You planned on this sin. You know, the church assembles together upon the first day of the week. That's not the church strung out there in Yellowstone Park on Lord's Day morning. That's you doing what you want to do. You know, God taught us in the Old Testament, in Leviticus chapter 17, He told the people after He established the tabernacle and set up corporate worship, He said, now when you make your offering, don't do it at home. Don't do it out in the grove. Don't do it out in the field. Bring your offering to the door of the tabernacle. Now friends, this is important. Here He's established a pattern. What do? Bring your offering to the door of the tabernacle. Now immediately they begin to think of excuses. So He tells them again in Deuteronomy, the second giving of the law. They were saying, you know, I'd like to go. I've got a nice bull I'd like to sacrifice, but the temple's too far away. They were just like us. I'd like to be in the assembly, but it's 500 miles from that church. You know what He told them then? Here's what you do. Take your bull down to the market and sell him. Get the money. Go to the tabernacle, wherever that is. Buy another one. And offer him. You reckon they did that? I'm sure they thought of something else. What is all that for? You know why we have a command to assemble on the first day of the week? Have you ever even thought about it? It is to keep us out of idolatry. You don't put things ahead of God. You put God first. You're first. He's first. That's why you assemble together. On the first day of the week, every first day of the week, you put Him first. It keeps you from putting, I use Yellowstone Park ahead of God. Or a trip, once in a lifetime trip to Italy. Yeah, it probably is going to be once in a lifetime. Well, we're down to the bottom line, I see. And I want to close it like this. There's more to our story. And I won't take long, I'm sorry. We've run over a little bit already. You know what's going to happen now? Pandora wants to open the box again. Did you know that part is? Yes, she does. You got the box now, and she's going to open it again. And here's what happens. She, you know what flew out that time? That's right. Hope. Hope flew out. Now, hope to me is the counterpart of Jesus. Hope came out of that box. She had released all the bad, the wicked, the mean, and the sinful, but there was still hope. And we still have hope today. We can correct the shortcomings in our life. We can turn it around. We can become the people we're supposed to be. It is something that we need to be working at. About 4 or 5 years ago, I went to the young speakers meeting down at Sulphur. It was hot, and like it usually is, and we had some really good speakers. But I was so glad I went, because we had 3 young men, one right after the other, and I'm sitting back there wondering what they're all going to say in 9.5 minutes. And the first young man got up, and he preached about Daniel. And he bore down on it. You know, it's nothing like young preachers, their enthusiasm, their zeal. I love young preachers too. They got the zeal for it. And this man preached about Daniel. He said, don't bow down. Whatever you do, never bow down. Do not allow that to happen. The next young preacher, he got up. And you know what he preached? It's almost like they got their lessons together. He says, stand up for what you believe. Stand up and be counted. You know, I'm feeling good already. I've got a stirring in my heart. I think, there's 2 young men that's got the right idea. We're not going to bow down. We're going to stand up. We're going to face all these bad things. And then the third guy got up. and he preached about Nehemiah when he was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. You remember his Nehemiah's enemies, old Sanballat and those guys, they said, "Come out here and let's talk." He said, "I don't have time to talk to you." They rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem with a brick in one hand and a sword in the other. And that young man bared down on that. And he says, "You know what? We can rally." That was his thrust. "We can rally." And I'm just sitting there all rallied already. "We can stand up. We can do those things that knock bowing down. But we have to get busy." It's a great word, but we got to get busy. I'm ready to close our lesson for tonight. Is there anybody here that's not a Christian and you'd like to come on? We'd like to offer you the opportunity. The Bible says in John 8, verse 24, Jesus said, "Except you believe that I paid, you'll die in your sins." What else? Luke the 13th chapter, verse 3. Jesus said, "I tell you, except you repent, you shall all likewise perish." We have to change our lives. That's what we've been talking about. Again, Matthew 10, verse 32, the Lord said, "If you'll confess me before men, I will confess you before my Father which is in heaven." What else? Mark 16, verse 16, Jesus said, "He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved." That's what you need to do. If you're a child of God here tonight and you need to make some corrections in your Christian life, if we can assist you in any way, we'll be happy to do so. I want to be the class. I want you to come. Let's stand.